The year 2025 has already etched a stark new line in the story of UK migration. By the end of July, the numbers told a dramatic tale. Over 25,000 people had made the dangerous journey across the English Channel in small, overcrowded boats. This isn't just another high figure, it's the fastest rate of arrivals ever recorded since this crisis began. The milestone of 25,000 was reached nearly 2 months earlier than it was in 2024, a clear sign that the flow of people is accelerating at a pace that has caught everyone off guard. It's a relentless, daily event that is now defining the national conversation. What makes this year so different is the sheer intensity of the crossings. We've seen single days where nearly 900 individuals have landed on British shores, a number that would have seemed unbelievable just a few years ago. This surge represents a massive 51% increase compared to the same period in the previous year. The statistics are not just abstract numbers, they represent thousands of individual stories of desperation, hope, and risk. Each arrival adds to a situation that is becoming more complex and politically charged with every passing week, presenting a monumental challenge to the new government. The journey itself remains as perilous as ever. These are not sturdy vessels, but flimsy, inflatable boats, often packed far beyond their safe capacity. They are pushed out into one of the world's busiest shipping lanes, at the mercy of strong currents and unpredictable weather. We heard a tragic story in late July of a man who suffered a fatal cardiac arrest on a boat that had to be turned back to France. His death is a grim reminder of the human cost involved in these crossings. It highlights the extreme lengths people will go to, knowing that the journey could very well be their last. This constant stream of arrivals has transformed the Kent coastline into a permanent stage for a humanitarian and political drama. The sight of Border Force vessels escorting dinghies to shore has become a familiar image on the news. But for the local communities, it's a daily reality that they see unfolding right in front of them. The scale of the 2025 surge has moved the issue from a persistent problem to what many are now calling an undeniable national crisis, demanding answers and solutions that have so far remained elusive. To understand why thousands are gambling with their lives in the Channel, you have to look far beyond the beaches of northern France. The primary drivers are the timeless, powerful forces of conflict, violence, and crushing poverty. People are not leaving their homes, their families, and everything they know for a casual trip. They are fleeing war-torn countries, escaping persecution from brutal regimes, or trying to find a way out of economic situations where there is simply no hope for a future. For many, the prospect of a life in the UK, however uncertain, feels like the only option left. These journeys are not spontaneous. They are enabled by sophisticated and ruthless people smuggling networks. These criminal gangs operate on both sides of the Channel, exploiting the desperation of vulnerable people for profit. They sell a dream of safety and prosperity, charging thousands of pounds for a place on a dangerously unsuitable boat. Undercover investigations have shown how these networks are highly organized, using social media to advertise their services and encrypted apps to coordinate their logistics. They are resilient and adaptable, quickly finding new ways to operate whenever authorities try to clamp down on their methods. The choice to cross the Channel is often the final, desperate leg of a much longer and more arduous journey. Many of these individuals have already traveled across continents, facing incredible dangers along the way. They may have been living in temporary camps in Europe for months or even years, with no legal route to claim asylum in the UK. The lack of safe and official pathways for seeking refuge is a significant factor. When legal doors are closed, people are forced to take illegal and dangerous ones, putting their lives directly into the hands of smugglers. Ultimately, it comes down to a simple calculation of risk versus reward. While the journey is fraught with danger, the situations they are fleeing are often seen as even more life-threatening. A significant portion of those who make it to the UK and have their asylum claims processed are eventually found to have a legitimate fear of persecution and are granted refugee status. This fact shows that for many, the risk is a calculated one, based on a genuine need for protection that they feel they cannot find anywhere else. Faced with record-breaking numbers, Prime Minister Keir Starmer's new Labour government has made tackling the Channel crossings a top priority. Their public message is one of toughness, with a promise to smash the gangs that facilitate these dangerous journeys. This approach signals a shift in focus towards targeting the criminal networks behind the scenes. In a significant move, Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced a new sanctions regime specifically aimed at disrupting the financial and logistical operations of these smuggling rings, hoping to cut the problem off at its source rather than just dealing with the arrivals. A cornerstone of the government's new policy is a renewed partnership with France. In July 2025, Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron announced a pilot one-in, one-out returns deal. The idea is that for every asylum seeker returned to France from the UK, Britain would accept one individual with established links to the UK through a legal route. However, this program has not yet been implemented, and critics are already questioning its potential scale and effectiveness. As part of this closer cooperation, French police have, for the first time, started slashing dinghies at sea to prevent them from completing the journey. On the home front, the government is scrambling to find accommodation for the thousands of new arrivals. The Home Office has confirmed it is adding over 400 new spaces for male asylum seekers at a former airbase, RAF Wethersfield, in Essex. This is part of a wider strategy to move people out of expensive hotels, which have become a flashpoint for social tension. However, the use of large-scale accommodation sites like this is controversial in its own right, raising concerns among local communities and human rights groups about the conditions and the impact on local services. Despite these new initiatives, the government is under immense pressure as the boats continue to arrive in unprecedented numbers. The opposition has been quick to label the government's response as doing nothing, pointing to the rising figures as proof that the new strategies are failing. Officials in Downing Street have admitted that the country's social fabric is becoming strained, acknowledging the immense challenge ahead. The government is walking a tightrope, trying to appear tough on illegal migration, while also managing a complex humanitarian situation that is growing larger by the day. The surge in Channel crossings is not just a logistical problem, it is deeply affecting the social and political life of the nation. The issue has become a powerful weapon in the political arena. Nigel Farage's Reform UK party is gaining traction in the polls by relentlessly attacking the Labour government's record on migration. At the same time, the Conservative opposition, through Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, has called 2025 the worst year on record, accusing the government of failing to get a grip on the crisis and dismissing the French deal as totally inadequate. This political heat is reflecting and amplifying divisions within the public. In some areas, the strain on local services and the visibility of asylum accommodation have led to anger and anxiety. Tensions have boiled over into ugly scenes, with far-right groups organizing violent demonstrations outside hotels housing asylum seekers. An incident in Epping, Essex, involving an asylum seeker and a local teenager, led to protests that resulted in over 20 arrests. These events show how the issue is being exploited to fuel hatred and division, with Downing Street even warning that Britain is fraying at the edges. However, this is not the whole story. Alongside the anger and fear, there are also countless acts of compassion and solidarity. Local charities, faith groups, and ordinary citizens across the country are stepping up to provide support for new arrivals. They offer food, clothing, language lessons, and simple human kindness to people who have arrived with nothing. These grassroots efforts paint a different picture of Britain, one of welcome and empathy, but their voices are often drowned out by the louder, more confrontational narratives that dominate the news headlines. Looking ahead, the ongoing crisis poses profound questions for Britain's future. The government faces the immense challenge of finding a sustainable and humane solution that can command public confidence. This will likely require a multifaceted approach, combining tougher enforcement against smugglers with the creation of more safe and legal routes for asylum. How the UK navigates this period will define its politics, its relationship with its European neighbours, and most importantly, the very nature of its social fabric for years to come. The choices made now will determine whether the nation can heal its divisions or if they will deepen even further.